Broadcasting from our subterranean studios in beautiful Paradise Valley, Pennsylvania, it's Business and Brain Tumor Talk, a unique show with topics to educate, inspire, and implement. Without further ado, here's your host, Rick Franzo.
Welcome, everybody, to Business and Brain Tumor Talk. I'm your host, Rick Franzo. Today, we have the Muoio family. Did I say that right?
Muoio, you did.
I hear that's a common mistake. Muoio?
Muoio. Everybody pronounces it wrong.
We have good friends who call us the Muoios, so Muoios is close enough.
Okay, good enough. And so from Milford, Connecticut, welcome. We have Rob and Sarah. And of course, in the middle is the star of our show, Anthony. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Anthony is a pediatric brain tumor survivor. And so I first met Anthony on a radio show that I did 8 years ago. And Anthony was 2, and you're 10 now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, see, so that was good. Some good math that I just did right there. So we're going to go and talk about a lot of things, but mostly the show is going to be about Anthony's giving back to the community and all the things that he does and how they honor the veterans and at the Elks Club. And Sarah's going to start off with telling us a little bit about Anthony's journey and what that's been like. So Sarah, the floor is yours.
So Anthony was diagnosed with a choroid plexus papilloma when he was 5 months old. He actually underwent a 9.5-hour surgery on the day he turned 5 months. So he was just a little baby at the time. Obviously, it was like the scariest time of our lives. And before he was diagnosed, like I had never heard of a child having a brain tumor. I was just never in this circle where I had seen it, I had heard about it. I mean, I might have, but I wasn't aware of it. And awareness is a huge word in our family because several years before Anthony was diagnosed, there was no cure for his tumor. So that's why a lot of what Anthony does is building awareness, raising awareness for pediatric brain tumors, and some of the things that he's experienced along the way in survivorship. So he underwent a 9.5-hour surgery to remove the tumor. The tumor was located in the center of his brain, and it was the size of a small orange. So as you can imagine, for a 5-month-old, it took up a big amount of space in his head. And the biggest symptom that he had was the type of tumor he has makes excessive amounts of spinal fluid. So that fluid had built up in his head, and it had caused symptoms of vomiting. His face physically looked like there was pressure, like building. And finally, his eyes crossed, and that was like our alert. We had been back and forth to the hospital and to the pediatrician for like a full week, and it was kind of being diagnosed as a virus because the symptoms didn't really come together until like the last minute. So if you had gone to a pediatrician with one of the symptoms here or there, of course, they're not going to alert and send you right to the hospital and say this is something big. But he was finally diagnosed, and he had his surgery. He had a stroke during his surgery, so he deals with like partial paralysis on the right side now, but he's been in therapy since he was a baby. And so aside from his history and some of the things he deals with as he's growing and for the effects of his surgery, as you could see, he lives a active and happy life, and he's been on a mission to spread awareness and give back because of his circumstances, because unfortunately we've met a lot of children and families along the way who aren't in the same circumstances as we are. So
yeah, absolutely. And Anthony is a much sharper dresser than I am. And I just want to make note of that. Right, Rob? He's a sharp dresser.
That cologne.
For sure. Anthony, talk to me, man. What's going on? You're in 3rd grade, right?
Yep.
10 years old in 3rd grade, and you are a martial artist, and you are a philanthropist. You set up a lot of different things. I see lemonade stands. I see comedy shows. You're busier than I am. You make me feel very, very lazy when I read about all of your accomplishments and things that you're doing. So why do you like to raise money, Anthony? Why do you like to do that?
when I first heard that there were a lot of kids fighting like me, I was like, I want to raise money to for them to fight for us. And I did not want them to go down like this.
Yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. So paying it forward and helping them out. And so what are some of the things that you've done to do this? What are some of the things that you've set up?
The 30-mile walk. I've done 52-mile walk.
Wow.
What else have I done?
Well, last year you did the tap cancer out. You're getting ready to do it again this year.
I've done 2 tap cancer outs, and I'm doing it again this year. And what else have
You've done birthday fundraisers.
I've done birthday fundraisers. I've done.
You just did a big Make-A-Wish fundraiser with Jersey Mike's. He was the Make-A-Wish ambassador here in Milford.
Excellent.
He's done a lot of work with the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. So, I mean, some of his work could be as simple as sending in a video. Like they'll call and be like, we need a survivor to send us like a day in the life or tell us their story. And he loves doing stuff like that. So it could be anything from a small scale thing like that to like he's done when he did the 52 miles, he walked 52 miles in September. So some days we were walking 3 or 4 miles to catch up with his other busy schedule. Some days we were just walking a mile. And as he was doing it, he was raising money at the same time. So I think that fundraiser brought in a little over $5,000 for the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation. And we really support them because they fund a lot of research. And we've been to events where we've talked with doctors who've received grants from the Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation, and much of the funds that come there go directly to research, which is something that we're really big on, obviously, because of his tumor and how far they came with his before he was diagnosed.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a definitely a worthy cause. How's everything going in school?
Good.
Not a huge fan of school. You could tell him. You could tell the truth.
Tell the truth. This is a truthful show.
Not a big fan, except for art, gym, recess, and lunch.
All the hard.
So like all the ones that were my favorites as well. So that's good. You've got a bright future. I was big into lunch, research, recess, art. Do you have nap time? Even if you don't, I took nap time.
We do that now. They don't.
I do. Yeah, I definitely do that every day. So you have something to look forward to. There is nap time. And it's not a punishment. It's actually a privilege. So that's what we like is nap time. So art is a favorite subject of yours?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not artistic at all. That's just one of the things. You do a lot with veterans with your dad at the Elks Club.
Yeah.
Talk about the Elks Club a little bit.
It's a place me and my family like to hang out, and sometimes just go there to help with fundraising stuff and help set up for parties and stuff there.
Excellent.
What started it off with the Veterans Organization. My wife and I were volunteers for Home of the Brave. It's an organization that veterans who are homeless are brought in, housing, educate them, re-educate them. They give them start their life all over again. So our part was we used to bring food there and serve them dinner. And that's when Anthony's first touch with the veterans was there. So he went up to every veteran, thanked them for their service, and he made up candy little bags on his own to give to all the veterans.
Well, even before that, his first time he ever went there with us, he was 3 months old. So he was just a baby in the carriage. And then we were due to go back there the weekend after his surgery. So we had to tell them, look, we obviously aren't coming. We're in the hospital. And the director wrote back to us and he was like, we have 40 men and women here who want to just get in a big van and show up at the hospital to support you guys the way you had supported them. And so would you stop by once things are calmed down and when you're better? And these veterans who are dealing with homelessness themselves went out and used money from their jobs that they had. They collected cans and they got Anthony balloons and teddy bears and all this stuff out of their own pocket and had us back like a month or two after his surgery. So that kind of started his kick to give back to the veterans. And then we've been involved with it ever since. And then when Rob started being really involved with Elks, it just kind of took off from there.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And I saw that you were carrying some flags for Memorial Day, Anthony. And so you were putting flags out over for the veterans?
Yes, at the veterans' graves.
And how many flags did you put up?
Actually, it was like pretty much like half the Elks doing it, but we probably did like a couple, like 100 graves.
Wow. That's a lot. That's
like
amazing.
2 rows so fast.
But let me add a little bit to that. Last year when we did it, Anthony got a little upset. We were done that the veterans' graves were dirty. They had sand on them. So this year, he sent my wife out that would get a special brush to clean off every grave that was dirty. So before he put his flag, he looked at the grave. If it was dirty, he took his little brush, cleaned it all off, even wiped it with his hand, and then he put the flag on. So
that's respect right there. That's wonderful. I love to hear that. Definitely. So you've done a lot of things, Anthony, in a very short amount of time. What's next for you? What do you have coming up? What's some of the events that you have coming up? I know that you have a comedy show coming up on the 14th, a fundraiser on June 14th, right?
Yes. My goal is to make $10,000 dollars for money for cancer research.
Wow, that's amazing. And so do you do martial arts to do that as well? Do you do martial arts fundraisers as well?
Yes, I actually am doing one in a few months.
Few weeks now. We're getting close. He's been fundraising for a couple months, but yeah.
He goes to 2 jiu-jitsu schools. One Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The other one Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday.
So pretty much every single day, maybe Sunday off, maybe practicing at home. So you're jiu-jitsu all the time. That's what it seems like, right?
Pretty much.
And so what level are you?
Gray and white belt. So it goes like white, gray and white, red, gray, and then gray and black. Then same with all the other colors.
That is fantastic. And so what do you want to do when you get older? Not what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I don't even know what I want to be when I grow up.
Still waiting.
Car mechanic.
Yeah, but we're all waiting. But what do you see for your future? What do you want to do when you get a little older?
Either a car mechanic or a carpenter.
Car mechanic or a carpenter, we need both. I do business coaching, and I can tell you, I don't coach any car mechanics, but I do coach a lot of construction companies, and we're always looking for good carpenters, good estimators, people that not only are good with their hands, but good with their heads, and they can design things and everything else. So there's plenty of opportunity out there for that, for sure. Definitely. And if people want to donate to your fundraisers, where should they go? We're going to put links up.
Either Anthony's Army, right, Mom?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or Tap Cancer Out.
Yep. So if they go to Anthony's Army on Facebook or Instagram, all the links are also there. And if you follow him, you could follow along with his journey of training and other stuff he does outside of this tournament. But he also makes these cool little TikTok videos of just clippets of him training and what he's doing to prepare for the tournament. His jiu-jitsu is also very good therapy for him. So it's part of his survivorship as well, just staying moving and working on those different motor skills that were affected by his surgery. So being in the gym 6 or 7 days a week isn't just about like getting better at jiu-jitsu and getting stronger. It's about keeping these moving parts going and growing through his survivorship.
Absolutely. And if there's a message that you want to tell other kids that might be going through kind of a tough time with a medical issue, what would that be, Anthony?
Probably stay strong.
Stay strong. No, that's good advice. Don't give up, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Absolutely.
Anthony, his last year's tournament, he dedicated to two people: Luke Dunn, who unfortunately passed away from brain cancer, and his aunt Debbie, who had breast cancer. So on one leg, he had a rubber band that said Luke Dunn on it, and the other leg was Aunt Debbie. So, and he's also fighting for his friend Connor, who has the same tumor as Anthony has, but he's in the battle right now fighting it. And Anthony supports him, talks to him. They don't live very close, but they make sure the connection is there. So it's not
That's
just him,
very
it's our whole family. We all wear our bracelets in support of the kids and the organization. The more awareness that we can bring to everybody makes it just a little bit easier to be aware of what you're entitled to say or do. My wife, during this journey in the beginning, I may look like the strong guy of the family, but unfortunately, it was our wife who took control at the hospitals and advocated for this, that, and whatever needed to be done. And then if she couldn't do it, I stepped in, but it was very little part that I did. So my wife deserves Anthony's our life to her in more ways than one, because besides Anthony's brain tumor, my son and wife had to deal with me having a heart transplant. So Anthony trooped that out, called me every day in the hospital during the pandemic, so he was able to communicate with us. So my wife took care of him during that, and then when I got home, she took care of both of us. So she's our like little angel that we have on our shoulders.
Well, Rick and I talked about this a bit on the phone, like just how the whole journey affects the caregivers, and like everyone says it takes a village to raise a child, but our term has obviously been it takes an army, and it takes an army to get through these medical situations. Like there's so many little moving parts that you don't think of, and the support that you need that you don't realize you need. And people, luckily for us, have just shown up and they've been there for us and gotten us through that. A lot of that has been the Elks, and that's why Anthony calls it his Elks family, and that's why he loves to be there, because it's like just a big family. And these were strangers to us, and they become family now. And it's just very true. And you need a lot of people to get you through these situations. And then, lucky for us, we're able to be those people for other families now. And that's something that Rob and I wanted to do. We kind of talked about it in the hospital before we even left there. Like, if we get through this, like if Anthony gets through this, we have to do something to help other people, because we noticed the gaps in the hospital of the things we didn't have and we needed. One of those for me as a mom was just like another mom out there who had been through it or had a kid who survived even just the surgery part of it, just some little glimpse of hope that I could hang on to, because obviously the doctors can't tell you those things for liability and stuff like that. And that's all I really needed and didn't have at the time. So that's why we continue to do what we do with Anthony's Army, and and spreading awareness and just being kind to each other. Like, we're all in this together.
Well said. I can't, when I went through, and I say this with all due respect, Anthony and I have the easiest part, right? We're the patients. We endure what we have to endure, right? We kind of play the hand that we were dealt. The real heroes, and I've said this to you before, Sarah, is the caregivers. For Anthony, it's the parents. It's both, right?
Yeah.
Sarah's definitely the rock. I'll give her that. She is, right. My wife, when everything happened, my daughter was 11. She was with me every day. My daughter and my wife. It would have taken, if the roles were reversed, it would have taken me an entire battalion of people to get done what she did by herself, right? She had support. But the thing that is so hidden is, even though I had amazing support, you had amazing support, you still do, but there's times when you feel incredibly alone.
Yeah, that is true.
Right. there's times when you feel
Because,
incredibly
I
alone.
mean, you
So
truly can't understand it, like, to the depths of you unless you've been through it. Like, you really can't. I mean, hospital rooms, like, him and I were together the whole time. Rob and I never left each other's side, but we're sitting in a dark room. And, like, sometimes I didn't have everything's going through my head myself. Like, everything's going through his head himself. And you're kind of, it's almost like a battle internally and then a battle against you, because everyone deals with it differently. Like, everyone grieves the process differently. Everyone copes with things differently. So you're right. There's many times where you feel like I'm alone. And survivorship in general. And we've kind of talked about doing something with this in the future, of like something to do with survivorship. Survivorship is a very, very challenging road because there aren't a lot of resources out there for survivors. There's tons of resources when you're in the hospital. There's tons of resources to like get you to survive. But then it's kind of like, just, okay, now you're out on your own and these things are going to come up along the way, but you don't qualify for that. And you can't get that support because you're a survivor. You're not fighting. So it's a hard road. It really is. And I know Anthony has his own struggles with survivorship. Like, one of the reasons why he doesn't like school is because school is very, very challenging for him. And because his case is so rare, even the schools don't know like what supports to give him. So we're in the process of dealing with that now as he's going into fourth grade. Obviously, school is getting harder. The school system itself here in Milford hasn't necessarily had kids who have had the same type of disabilities that Anthony has. And we still don't truly know how his disabilities affect his brain because his brain's still growing. So he's a patient at Boston Children's, and they've been great about giving us advocates and, school liaisons and stuff like that. But some of that he doesn't qualify for because he's not in active treatment. So it's a battle. Like, survivorship doesn't just end when your treatment stops. It's a long journey. And I think I personally didn't realize that, even going through what we've been through up until this part with the school stuff, I still didn't realize how difficult it was going to be. And I think a lot of people don't realize how hard survivorship is.
It definitely is a lifelong journey, and there is a lot of gaps. And hopefully there's a majority of people that don't have to experience what you all experience, what I experience, what other survivors experience. The survivorship is probably the hardest part, not only for the patients, but for the caregivers themselves. I experienced things, and I'm 15 years out of my first surgery, right? And so it's hard for other people to understand if they haven't been where you are. Right. And it's frustrating, and it can seem kind of hopeless sometimes. And I think that that's one of the things that I do and you do and Anthony does and Rob does is, kind of brings that to the forefront and creates these communities where people can have a voice and they understand. And, what Anthony's doing for the boy that has the same type of tumor. What's his name, Anthony?
Connor.
Connor. I thought so. I didn't want to mess it up. So Connor, that's the most important thing, is knowing that he's not alone and that there is hope, and hope is a tangible thing you can wrap your arms around. School is not easy to begin with, but when you have a brain injury, right, which Anthony does, which I do, and so many other people do, it becomes a bit frustrating. And so we need those resources. We need people to understand and to, kind of craft it for what works for us. Right. It's kind of very custom the way that goes. And, in the business world, and this is business and brain tumor talk, we talk about people that are, higher functioning when it comes to that, like me. But I still have my challenges as well. So I definitely empathize with everything that not only Anthony's going through, but that you're going through as well. But it always ends up, Sarah's the rock, my wife is the rock. And so, when things happen, Rob, we just kind of take we take that side seat and we're just along for the ride. I think that's it, right?
Yeah.
When we're in this journey that we go to, wherever we go, because Anthony has a pretty hefty scar on the back of his head, people say, well, he looks normal. Look,
Yeah,
he's normal.
Yeah.
And then you'll
None of
get,
us are normal.
and right, true.
That's true.
Then you'll have people who dealt with cancer and came up, and our response, Anthony and I, is, well, thank you for fighting. We're glad you're here.
Yeah.
So that's a boost to even beyond adulthood, that they appreciate to hear that little, maybe a child way of saying it. Thank you for the fight, and we're glad you're with us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and Rick and I have taught you deal with epilepsy as well, right?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rick has epilepsy as well. And I mean, that's a perfect example. We were never told leaving the hospital, like, these are things that could happen, so watch for them. And so Anthony's epilepsy was like kind of a gradual progression. And it just little things like that are like the gaps we're talking about with survivorship, of like just knowing kind of ahead of time, here's a heads up of the things that could happen. Because I think in general, there's enough resource and enough research and enough cases that they know enough that that's a common occurrence with people with any type of brain injury.
They do, but here's the disconnect, right? Is that I know that people are trying to bring all this information together, but there's a lot of disconnect when it comes to brain tumors and brain cancers and just brain injuries, because what we know about the brain is so little it would be laughable if it was funny, right? So, they figure you went through surgery, they stitched you up. You're walking, you're talking, you're doing good. I guess you're going to be okay. So, go on with your life, go forth and live your life, right? And it just isn't that way. So, there has to be some continuing support for the physical, for the emotional, for the psychological, all the things that we endure, right? And brain tumors and brain cancers are considered an orphan disease. And I won't go off on that tangent, but it really is not. So it doesn't get the funding that it needs. So what Anthony's doing is very, very important. What we need is a little bit of clarity, I think, on what you just said, Sarah, is some of the things that we could look out for after surgery. They didn't know. When I was paralyzed, I said, am I ever going to walk again? They said, we don't know. We've seen this before and it could go either way. So, like Anthony and like you and, both of you and my wife and my family, you kind of throw down and you're like, all right, so this is where we're going. And so it becomes that fight. And I think that that's really what we do. People don't like that kind of analogy where it's a fight or a battle and things like that. That's
actually,
how I
like
cope.
somebody in the school system just gave me the perfect analogy because of us trying to navigate all these things and still not knowing. It's like Anthony is the perfect storm because he had a brain tumor. He has epilepsy, which still affects the brain in different ways. He had a stroke during his surgery. I was telling you, this disconnect between how his brain and his eyes work together, which obviously really affects his school. So now how do we navigate these waters during this perfect storm? And I just thought that was a great analogy because it's true,
That's what's that saying that, life goes and says to you, you can't handle the storm. And you say to life back, guess what? I am the storm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So Anthony's the storm. He is the storm. It's not even the perfect storm. He is the storm right there. So you
I like
can't
to
handle the storm when
add
you
a
are
little
the
something, if I may. A friend of ours just passed away who was a big, big advocate on children's brain cancer and cancer in general. His name is Tattoo Tom. His mission, because he had lost a child to this terrible disease, was to bring more awareness to Washington, because the government only gives 4% of the research
to childhood
for
cancer.
children, for any children's for cancer. It's awful. His mission was to fight Washington because nobody goes. Everybody's just doing their thing. He took it as his mission, gather patients, families, and go to advocate to get more money for these doctors, more money for research. So that means I did a lot for the organizations, and they do with children and brain. And it's sad that our government only gives 4% for children.
And he was a fierce advocate.
Yes.
Like, not only did he do a lot of awareness and funding of research and stuff like that, but he handled the bills that like people forget about. Like, you're in the hospital. Yes, all this money needs to go to research. Yes, we need to find new drugs, new cures, but like there's still families whose bills and stuff continue to come in, and life doesn't stop at home. And then like for us, we were in the hospital for 14 days and not obviously working. So his foundation paid for mortgages, gas for people's cars to get to and from treatments, food in the hospital, things like that. He unfortunately passed away recently, and Anthony is actually dedicating his actual fight at Tap Cancer out this year to Tattoo Tom because they were good buddies. So, you just need more people like that.
That's amazing. And, that's one of the things. I mean, you look at the statistics and, brain tumors and brain cancers, that they flip flop with leukemia, right? But I think that right now it's the number one cancer causing death of children under the age of 19. There's 120 or 130 different types of brain tumors. So no effective screening process, right? So you can't just go in and say, hey, I'd like an MRI. Hey, I'd like a CAT scan. There's no effective, right? It's a silent thug that comes up and hits you from behind. It's a coward, right?
Yeah.
And so this is how we fight, right? You can't square off on it like you would with somebody in the real world, right? So what do? You bring awareness and you bring its existence to the forefront. You do support, you research, and you just are there for those that are still fighting the fight. And, we call ourselves warriors, and that's really what it is. A warrior. We don't let anybody walk alone ever. And that's really the way that it is. And, you have an amazing story, Anthony. You're definitely one of my heroes, and really appreciate and appreciate and respect everything that you're doing. Any final words, guys?
Yes, I got something. How long have you been on radio for?
So I started my radio career when I was 18. So I was on the radio for 10 years professionally. My first business was a mobile DJ business, and that's when I was 19. So we're talking in the 80s. Yeah. And so then I had the radio show when I worked at the university, and I, by popular request, I just started my podcast up again very recently. So as to bring awareness and just talk about that niche a little bit about the brain tumors and brain cancers.
Well, I think you got somebody beat you already on when you started. Anthony, when he goes to Boston Children's Hospital, Ryan Seacrest donated a DJ radio station in the hospital. So every time he goes there, he goes into the room and he is on a broadcast. That's broadcast.
Wait, are you saying Ryan Seacrest is better than Rick Franklin?
No, I did not say that. I didn't say that.
I appreciate that, Sarah. I was wondering, Rob, we were going to go.
I did not go there. So
now, Anthony, he's better.
That's right. And he likes talking to the other children. And if you see them, children who have brain cancer, brain tumors, for some reason, they gravitate to each other automatically.
Yeah. And they're always smiling.
Yeah.
It's like they're in the biggest battle of their life. They're sick as can be, and they're sitting there smiling.
What's up? What's up? Not even knowing. We could be in restaurants. A waitress came up to us one time and said, I don't want to be intrude, but did he have a brain tumor? She said, yes. So did I. Who's your surgeon? The same surgeon. And he made his best friend with his teenage waitress. It was heart-wrenching just to hear the story.
But that's the way that it goes. Hey, that brings up something. I know that we're running out of time, but do you remember how we got connected 8 years ago? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I don't.
Don't ask me.
So it was somebody.
I know you have your book.
Yep, but it was a student that worked at the university, and he was friends with one of the students that I had hired when we worked at the university, and he was a mechanic for a racing team, and they were up and they were in the same restaurant.
Oh, okay. It was Friends of Jacqueline thing? That
It was something, and you were in a restaurant, and somebody at your table mentioned brain tumors, and he said, "I don't mean to intrude, but did you say brain tumors?" And you said yes about Anthony, and said a good friend of mine also has a brain tumor, and he has a radio show, and we exchanged information. Do you remember that now?
No, I
You
don't.
don't
You know
remember?
what? Don't get him started on what I do and don't remember, because I'm like, I'm just always going through the motions. But no, that's how we network with people. Like, it's
Yeah,
amazing how I always say it's almost like the universe putting us in each other's paths, like whether you believe in it or not. Like, Anthony is a true testament of how many people we've met along the way. And his network is literally just people happening to share their stories and having some similarities, or having something that they could each get involved with each other, and just build a bigger impact.
Now, there's a race car driver who's a teenager who races with symbols on his car about brain cancer. The organization he's affiliated with is Friends of Jacqueline. Friends of Jacqueline
okay.
is an organization that takes children with brain cancer, brain tumors, and hooks them up with college teams as an honorary member of the team. And she does this. Anthony was a member of the.
Jacqueline had a brain tumor herself, pediatric brain tumor, and her foundation, it's giving them one more support, like a team to cheer them on. And I'm sure you've seen it on our Facebook with Anthony.
I
with
have, yes.
Soccer, and that's a great person to have on this podcast as well, as Friends of Jacqueline.
There's so many amazing people out there, and I could make this my full-time gig if I did this all the time, and I still wouldn't get through everybody that was so amazing. But is there any way besides Anthony's Army on Facebook that they can contact to go and make donations, or is that the best way to do it?
Yeah, so in our Instagram as well, it's the link in the bio. And like I said, we share it often, so you'll see the link is in Anthony's Army Facebook. I sent you the link personally as well, directly to his page. So those are the best ways to get directly, because there's a lot of people fundraising for the same thing, and Anthony is just working on his 10,000.
So why 10,000?
For 10 years. 10,000 for 10 years.
10,000 for 10 years. I love it. That's awesome. Anthony, any final words for our listeners and viewers? Nothing. A man of few words.
Keep fighting, don't give up.
Keep fighting, don't give up. We're going to take that with us for sure. Thank you so much, Anthony and Sarah and Rob, for being with us. This is Business and Brain Tumor Talk. Phenomenal show. Love to hear your feedback, and we'll see you next time. Stay gold.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.